They're essentially just sitting in their room hoping not to get hit. That's how bad it is. Or if they could have just left the city, they left, but a lot of people are still there.
So it's almost impossible for, the average person to be able to get out of the city.
To the security forces in Iran, to the public safety figures in Iran as well, for this to lead to a government change in Iran, they have to take an active role of defiant.
I cannot control my crying. Is under control, and you don't even know why you are crying.
Fact is, to leaders, people are just numbers. That's very painful.
Well, hi there. Welcome to episode 377 of Roqe. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. We are recording this on the afternoon of Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. And I say that off the top because events are moving so quickly, so chaotically, that it's nearly impossible to keep up. So what we're discussing now may already feel outdated by the time you see or hear this. And so we're going to ask for your understanding as we attempt to document and respond to a moment that's anything but still. We are calling this the Israel-Iran War, Voices of Iranians. And today we are effectively beginning a new series, the first of what we suspect will be an ongoing set of conversations here on Roqe throughout the duration of this unfolding conflict. We'll be joined by a selection of Iranian voices from different parts of the world, from inside the country to across the diaspora, journalists, artists, thinkers, everyday folks, people with personal, emotional, and varied relationships to what's happening. We're here not just to react to headlines, but maybe to ask, how are people really doing right now? How are they coping and grieving and hoping and resisting and enduring? This is, for many of us, a terrifying time. There's fear for loved ones, anguish over the unknown, a feeling of helplessness as missiles fly and leaders posture. But for many as well, there's also a glimmer, a long-awaited sense of reckoning, a quiet, or not so quiet, gratitude that some who have enforced violence and repression for decades are finally facing consequences. And yet, even that feeling can come with guilt or hesitation or dread, because at the center of this is a country mostly full of innocent people, and their safety must be the first concern. Within the global Iranian community, perspectives on this moment, as you also probably know, vary widely, and that's something we want to acknowledge and reflect. There are those who fear foreign intervention, those who believe it's the only path to real change. There are those praying for peace, others steeling themselves for the possibility that this war might bring the end of the Islamic Republic as we know it. Over time, we plan to feature a wide range of guests and opinions. So if someone shares a view today that you don't agree with, don't worry, we will bring others. This is not about echo chambers. It's about understanding, hopefully, complexity, and truth-seeking. Most of all, maybe this is about humanity, not ideology. Behind the headlines are people. Behind the politics are families. And behind the fear, perhaps, is a possibility that in the rubble of the moment, something new may emerge. Thank you for being with us. This is Roqe, episode 377. It's June 18, 2025. This is Roqe. Hi there, welcome to episode 377 of Roqe. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. Hello to you from Toronto. Hello to you from Canada. Salam dostan aziz, durud bar shoma. I hope you are doing okay, wherever you are tuning in from around the world. The events are moving fast. We're going to do our best to share Iranian voices and perspectives from around the world. Today, we're going to be joined by Dr. Kayvan Mirhadi, Dr. K, in New York, who has been in touch with thousands of Iranians inside the country, asking him medical advice at this moment. We'll speak to the police officer and social media star Kamiar Mahin-Saw in Vancouver, to the journalist and blogger Nik Kowsar in Washington. But let me start with two of our Roqe team members who have been part of this show for a long time, and we've been through a lot together, Pegah and Anahita. Let me do the formal introductions. She's no stranger to the show. Longtime listeners will remember her as a regular voice on the Roqe Roundtable, where she brought her unique analysis and fearless takes on current events. A proud former president of the Iranian Student Association at York, a title we've lovingly teased her about for years. And a committed political junkie, she's been actively engaged in the Iranian diaspora community for over 20 years. Welcome back, Pegah Ganji, Smart Pegah Ganji, SPG. Hello.
Hello.
And Anahita Nayebi is a dancer and founder of Hoor Dance, as well as a social service work student in Canada. She supports newcomers, refugees, and international students with a focus on mental health. And she has been a longtime contributor as a team member at Roqe Media. Hello to you, Anahita.
Hi, Jian.
Well, I'm grateful that you two are here as team members to start this Voices of Iranians kind of series, because even though we're here in the diaspora, it feels in some ways like we're in the middle of it when we're talking to friends or families or people that we know inside Iran. So let me ask you first both a question I'll be asking everybody who's on the program. How are you, how have you been processing the last few days, Pegah?
I think we talked a lot about how we felt and how we reacted to news, most recently during the Women Life Freedom Movement. And this is yet another reminder of what we feel as Iranians living outside of Iran, where we go through this vicious cycle of grief, guilt, hope, confusion, fear, all of these different emotions. And it's just a roller coaster. One minute you're feeling one way, the next way another. And it changes by the second because communication is limited with loved ones in Iran. News is unreliable in every sense of the word because you don't know where to get accurate, correct information. So I think it's just been up and down, really, is the best way I can explain it.
I was talking in the introduction there about that mixture of feelings, that wide variety of opinions and reactions and feelings we're getting from different Iranians around the world. And you find that in yourself. I mean, I find it, like, as you say, from every 10 minutes, it's like, well, actually, maybe I don't feel so bad, or this is horrific, or whatever that. And it's a very strange place to be, to not be able to somehow get a definitive take. But there's reasons for everything from extreme deflation to some kind of elation. Anahita, how have you been processing the last few days?
Honestly, too anxious the whole day and night, even when I'm sleeping. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of night checking my phone and worried about my family and relatives back home. And the other thing is the conflict between emotions, because if I want to be honest, when I see, I'm worried about my family and the people also, and at the same time when I see the people who are in the top of the IRGC and they are killed, I'm deeply happy sometimes. But in between, again, when there is some news that's related to the people, it makes me sad. And I had 2 panic attacks so far in the last 3 days. One in the street and the other one when I was at home, because of the situation that my parents are dealing with right now. Yeah.
What happens when you have that panic attack?
The first, I cannot control my crying. Is like, is under control, and you don't even know why you are crying, because when someone calling me or texting me just say something very, maybe it's not that much scary, but I start to cry. And the other feeling that I experienced that moment, I cannot breathe, and sometimes you feel your heart is gonna stop. And the only thing that I could do is just go outside and have deep breath and just try to be calm, and then find someone to see what happened exactly. Because post panic attack that I had, it was about my parents.
I'm going to ask you about your parents in a second, but just on this notion of what you both said in different ways, the mixed the mixed feelings, or I don't know how you describe it, up and downs, the extreme downs and then ups. It's one of those things that is a shorthand right now in the global Iranian community, I think. Like, I think for most Iranians, yes, there are people on far ends of the spectrum who are either super happy, like this is like coming, or just think everything about this is bad. And then I mean, if you're a staunch supporter of the Iranian regime, I guess you would think this is the Islamic Republic of regime, I should say, you'd think this is pretty bad. Or if you're, really, but in between there seems to be all these mixed emotions, and it is something that Iranians understand, I think, and non-Iranians, it's very hard to explain it to, because I feel like I have well-meaning friends who are non-Iranian, Canadians, as you say, or whatever, who are in touch saying, "Oh my God, you must be so heartbroken at what's happening," or "Oh my God, you must be so excited that they're the regime." And it's like, do you have an hour for me to explain exactly actually all the weird kind of range of emotions that people are going through right now? Because it's really hard to do it in a soundbite for you. You know?
It's actually two things I want to add to that. The first one thing I forgot to mention when you asked me is the inability to focus. That's one thing I've really, really noticed over the last few days. And I don't know if it's compounded by the fact that the women life movement still seems so raw. And now with the occurrences of the last few days, it's too much too soon, if there's a way of putting it, And so I found that I can't focus on anything. I'm constantly doom scrolling. I'm constantly refreshing different news feeds. Even when I'm trying to work throughout the day, I've got an extra laptop sitting next to me with BBC, CNN, 3 different news outlets. Instagram is not necessarily always the best source, but because of the fact that
none of them are.
None of them are.
Name the best source. I mean, name one great source. I don't know if there is.
For sure.
Not to take anything away from some of the Persian networks and stuff, but I mean, there isn't one sort of definitive place, I think. You know?
And so that's also part of the problem. And the other thing is, explaining those feelings to someone who's non-Iranian is virtually impossible, because they don't understand the nuances of Iranian society the way that those of us who have lived it or understand it because we're from Iran, and because we've had years and years of understanding what this regime is like and what's changed in the country and what ups and downs we've had and all of those things. So like you said, there's so many people who their messages are well intended, but just completely fall short to make us feel better.
We all have family inside Iran. Anahita, your parents are there.
Yes.
That's a big difference with me and Pegah. Talk to me about, they're in Tehran, where people were asked to evacuate. People in a Donald Trump tweet were informed that they need to evacuate. Talk to me about what's happened in the last few days.
First of all, the most scary things that my parents are dealing with is they are living in a high-risk area. It's close to Sadasima.
Are they in District 3? That one?
Yes. And then it's just 10 minutes walk to Sadasima. It is so close. And the other issue is, and the problem that we have, my father cannot walk, cannot travel. And then the other hand, there is no one to help them, because he cannot leave the place. He needs his bed, because this is the specific bed that he needs to stay on it. And there is a nurse who is taking care of him, and my mom is taking care of him as well. And the nurse is just come from morning to night, and then he's leaving 8 p.m. and they are going to be alone until morning. And in between, the internet is sometimes they have internet, sometimes not. And if we just send message to my mom, and if we see it delivered, we are calling her. In some cases we calling her, but there is no connection. It's just ringing. And and
by the way, of course, as we're doing this on Wednesday afternoon, June 18th, we've just found out the internet has totally been cut off in Iran by the regime. So
exactly. And last 2 days, when they attacked Sadasima, I was on the phone with my mom before that. It's like 10 minutes before that. And then When I finished the conversation, after a couple minutes, one of my friends called me and said, "Did you talk with your mom? And do you know how they are?" And I was like, yes, what happened? And then she said, "You know what, because they attacked Seda Sima, do you want to call them again?" And the panic attack happened. And then I didn't know what should I do that moment, because my mom, she said, please stop calling me too much, because me and my sisters, all of us are outside Iran. And then she said, it makes me more stressed.
Huh. I've had actually, one of my family members said this, and also I've had friends who've said that they have family in Iran who console them.
Yeah.
I say, no,
don't worry, it's okay.
A good friend of mine, her parents called and said, "Are you okay?" She's in Toronto, and she said, "What do you mean, am I okay?" And they said, "Well, we're worried about you." It speaks to the resilience of the people inside Iran, that they're actually worried about how their kids feel, or people are doing elsewhere. This idea of, I'm so sorry to hear about your dad, but also, and I mean, even my cousins talking about my aunt and uncle and cousin needing to get out of Iran, out of Tehran, and there was a day where it was just too hard to get out of Tehran in terms of the traffic and all that. It's so harrowing. It's so scary to think, well, where are they going to make it? What's going to happen? And what if they stay? And yet there are all these people like your dad. Some who stay willingly, and some who don't really have a choice if they need medical attention, or they need and these are kind of the invisible people, like caught in the middle somehow, that people are not really talking about, right?
Yeah. I mean, actually, it's something I wanted to talk about, and something I definitely wanted to mention, and something I've noticed. These are the people who aren't in the press briefings. They're not in the satellite images. They're not in the pictures that the different news outlets and medias and whatever are portraying. We have a population. First of all, Tehran is one of the most densely populated cities. I think it comes second to only Cairo, and the infrastructure or lack thereof is already a huge issue. I mean, talk about the roads, talk about blockages, talk about lack of fuel or shortages, talk about the fact that, in some parts there's shortages of electricity and water and all of these things. And this is all even before the military strikes happened, let alone in the midst of the chaos and whatnot. Yeah. So it's almost impossible for the average person to be able to get out of the city, let alone those individuals who are incarcerated behind bars. Talk about individuals who are in hospitals on systems like, let's say, a dialysis machine. They can't just pick up and leave. Or in a situation like Tehran, we have, I think the most recent stat was upwards of 26,000 street children. You're talking about a population that 47% of the population has been detained at one point or another. You're talking about
how are those street children supposed to evacuate Tehran within 12 hours?
And you have a population that I think something close to 11% of it is with some sort of disability. So these are the individuals who, what are they supposed to do, let alone your average person?
We're calling this episode Voices of Iranians, and you are Iranian, so you count as those voices, but we're also talking to a lot of people. I mean, during the uprising, as we called that extended series we did after the killing of Mahsa Amini, we were talking to people inside Iran. It doesn't look like it's going to be possible today. We had 2 or 3 people lined up, and we can't even get in touch with them right now. 2 of them were in Tehran. What are you hearing from Iranians? Let's start from inside Iran, in terms of your family or friends that you're talking to. What's the prevailing sense of things? Because depending on, and we'll talk about media in a moment, but I mean, depending on what person you follow on Instagram, or what news agent you're checking out or something like that, there's dramatically different reports of people gearing up to war against Israel, or people celebrating in the streets. You've seen these videos of people actually celebrating. Come do it, take it, take them out for once and for all, the regime. So what are you hearing, Anahita?
The people that I know, or because I have the big group of people on my Instagram, and sometimes they're texting me, so I don't know them. They just follow me because of my dance. But that very nice message that I received so far, it was from a young woman, and she said, "We are not leaving our home, we are staying." And also she said, wear the nice, colorful earring because of my kids, because they are in the situation that is, you know, the bombing or whatever happening. And also, she said, I was dyeing my hair to change the color of my hair because there is a hope for me, and I want to spread this with my kids. So, in some, or even my
the hope of what kind? That this might mean change or something?
Yes. For some of them, as I heard, or my friends, 2 of my friends today morning, they just text me and said, don't worry, we are okay, and they are not attacking the people, they are just attacking, you know, the government's things, and we hope it's gonna be change. And also my mom was like, I just shared the picture of her that in the story of my Instagram. She was watering the plants at home and very calm. And my father nurse said, I don't know how your mom is so patient and calm. And
Pegah, what are you hearing?
I think I'm hearing a little bit different. I think it goes back to what we were saying at the top of our conversation, where there's been kind of this up and down. The first 2 days, I would say, there was a lot of, you know, let's see what happens, and not a lot of fear, not a lot of anxiety, people still kind of living their average daily lives with the issues that they commonly faced in cities like Tehran and wherever else in Iran. But I think the last 2 days especially, there is a heightened amount of anxiety and fear. You know, I have some family members in Tehran, and until yesterday, they were kind of saying, no, you know, I think we'll stick around and see what happens and that sort of thing. And today they decided that they were going to go elsewhere. And I think it's a common feeling amongst a lot of people, especially parents, because that's where I've seen it a lot more from, where, you know, individuals who have kids and things like that, they're saying, we held out for a couple days, but now it's getting scarier. And I think there's things happening. I mean, I've seen videos where there's cars that have stopped in the middle of the road because they've run out of gas, or there's been tweets I've read about individuals saying, oh, we don't have water, or electricity's been cut off, or whatever else. And as occurrences like this happen, I think people are going to start feeling it more, feeling the pressure of it a little bit more, and maybe that will, I don't know, cause them to leave Tehran, or to have that fear or whatnot. But the flip side of that coin, I think, is exactly what Anahita is saying, that, you know, there are moments of hope still. Mm-hmm. There are still individuals who are saying, well, you know, I haven't seen that many casualties, or I haven't seen or heard that many civilians who have passed, but I have seen that General X and General Y and individual from the IRGC has died, and that gives me a glimmer of hope. So, you know, it's the same thing that we were talking about in terms of how I'm feeling. I think as a nation, as a people, we're all feeling this up and down and constant flip-flop between good and bad.
I mean, I had one family member, a member of my extended family in Tehran, text me and say that these are the worst days of our lives. Like, so, and they said, well, you know, they were a bit young for the Iran-Iraq war, so they don't really remember that. But so since then, I mean, and they're in Tehran, they were near one of the bombings. So I mean, you hear that and you go, wow, like this isn't a, you know, as we all know, it's not a video game. You know, there are people, there are real consequences to this. Then there's some people outside Iran, Iranians who are feeling, I think all of us are feeling a sense of helplessness. I did a post a couple of days ago where I said, you don't have to post. You don't have to have a take, you know, like not all of us, like, there's no requirement that everybody, because people started texting me going, well, aren't you going to say something? And to a certain extent, I feel like, you know, if I really have something to add to the conversation, or if I have something profound, or if I have some breaking news, but otherwise, I mean, and part of the reason why I hesitate is because I feel so helpless. Like what, you know, yes, I can post my heart breaks for, you know, Iran or something, but I mean, how is that contributing? I guess other than maybe some catharsis on my part. So there's these feelings of helplessness, and then there's feelings of guilt, like that somehow. Now, I didn't grow up in Iran, and I know this is something that some people who've just left there feel, where they feel a lot more like, I just left my Hambatan there, and but even I feel it, where I'm like, damn, here I am in Toronto, and you guys are going through this stuff, and I feel guilty.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what you've heard about from people in the diaspora.
I find I start every sentence with, I don't think I'm in a position to say because I'm sitting here. And I have heard myself, or I've caught myself saying that so many times during conversations the last few days. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's sense of helplessness, it's guilt, it's all of those things combined. I can't speak to, the newcomer angle of it, but definitely, I've been here almost my whole life. So many of my friends and family are in the same situation. And yet it doesn't take away from the heartbreak. It doesn't take away from the helplessness. It doesn't take away from the worry, the anxiety, all those things. But again, and I keep going back to this, it's almost like the light at the end of the tunnel, as an analogy. Every single conversation is, I'm worried, I'm scared, this is awful in some ways, but. Yeah. And I find,
well, if we're going to do 36 shows as we did, talking about how we want the IRGC on the terrorist list because we think they're terrorists, then we're not going to be upset if they get taken out to a certain extent, even if you don't believe in capital punishment, which I don't, it's Anahita, you are more of a newcomer than me and Pegah. What are you hearing and what are you feeling around those things like helplessness and guilt, etc.?
The newcomer situation is so complicated here because the people who just came in last 2 years and or maybe recently from Iran to with the work permit, with the international, the student visa, or even if they just came with PR to be permanent residents here, some of them, they just arrived and their family are still back home. It's like the husbands, wife, kids, and they just came to prepare everything for them and then bring them here. And now the things that they are dealing with million things. No job, no English. They cannot have conversation to find a job, or even the financial issue that they have. And between the people who are with the work permit here and the student visa, they have many issues because of the immigration policies so far that I'm not sure if they're confirmed or not. But if someone is here for more than 1 year, they cannot apply for refugee anymore. And the application who was from, 2021 or 2020, they are not, approve those application anymore. And I don't know what that means. Because for the international student, for example, they scare, they guilt because they feel they are safe here, but their family or, they are not safe. And the other issue the international student who have is they work, but they cannot work that much because they are full-time students. And, the money that they are making here, is not covering everything. And now the support that they had from back home is cut too.
Well, let's just briefly go. I want to bring our other guests in a few minutes. And Dr. K, I think, is our first one, and I want to hear from him because he's at the epicenter of so many people, thousands of people reaching out to him from inside Iran, with medical needs and advice and concerns. But before we get there, if we take it from the personal to sort of the, not necessarily the political, but what is happening out there. I've had a few voices of Iranians in my head from people who are very frustrated with different kinds of propaganda that are happening in social media, either by certain special interest groups. Some people think that this is going to be their road to power or something, or others who have an agenda of some kind, and it's really hard to filter, especially because there's certainly no credible news organization coming out of the inside of Iran. There isn't the kind of citizen journalism that we would have seen during the Green Movement. Like, you can't, everything's so difficult inside Iran. We see like the odd video that somebody shot on an iPhone. And outside of Iran, it's really hard to separate the message from the messenger in terms of who's telling you things. How have you been dealing with that?
So on Monday, there was a gathering of sorts downtown Toronto, and I saw a post on Instagram shared that, you know, a group of us are going to be getting together in solidarity with those in Iran, and the intent behind this is to raise awareness, maybe, you know, have some media coverage, and just show that we have differing views on what's going on, but that, you know, we're here, and those of us who are Iranian and outside of Iran, we care about what's happening. We want to show solidarity.
Fair.
And so I saw the post and I said, okay, well, that's good. You know, in Toronto, we have a very active community, and they do this sort of thing. And I was happy that this was being put together. Fast forward to an hour later, again, I'm scrolling on Instagram, and I see the exact same image where someone else has shared this and said, oh, don't go to this. This is someone from the IRGC is spreading this, and they're doing this because they're using it as propaganda. Then again, like an hour later, I look at it again, and then it says something like, oh, this is a group of monarchists who are doing this. And there's just so many conflicting messages on this. Ultimately, I ended up going, and I actually shared it on my personal Instagram story, and I wrote, you know, caveat, I don't know who's organizing this. I don't know if there's any agenda or anything like that, but I think at this time right now, I feel like it's the least I can do is to go and at least be with the community and that sort of thing. And so I went, and even there you could see and sense the distrust in everyone. If you didn't know the person next to you, you were looking at them in a certain way because there was a shortage of flags, which is actually something that the organizers had asked for. They said, you know, this isn't the time to bring this flag or that flag or whatever, so let's not. And so there weren't many flags or many signs or anything like this. It was just a group of people who were there trying to come together. But you could see the way that everyone was looking at each other was, you know, they were almost sizing each other up to see, okay, well, what's your motive and what's your intention and who's going to start what chant and what's happening. So this disunity that we've often talked about and distrust is very much still present. And I think it's because there's so many opposing views as to what's actually happening in Iran.
You saw the video post that I put up saying, basically just saying, you know, we always talk about unity. Yeah. This is the moment when we need to practice it. And all I said, like I literally just said, just for this moment, everyone is allowed to have their reaction. Yeah. And every person of Iranian descent, inside Iran, outside Iran, is allowed to have their reaction. If their reaction is fury, anger, sadness, okay. If their reaction is, all right, hot damn, let's go. Whatever it is, they are allowed their reaction. Most people were very kind, you know, in terms of supporting this and sharing the video and stuff like that. But it was funny that some of the reactions, like, was like, yeah, I agree with you, except if they support Israel. And it was kind of like, okay, well, I don't think that counts, you know, and people are just ready to pounce on each other, right? Yeah. And it's such a funny paradox because we all know, like, in the non-crisis moments, everyone says the problem is disunity. Yep. You know, and I blame this guy. He's creating disunity. We all, you know, but then this is the moment, right? Like this is the moment where the least we can do, which because it's not that much, is kind of band together in some way and say we are here in solidarity with the people in Iran. Like that's all we're, you know, and even that becomes so difficult because there's competing agendas, some of whom, to be fair, some of the agendas are being led by people who aren't Iranian. Yes. You know, and we're seeing that a lot too. Like I was all hopped up about people carrying these Islamic Republic flags at some rally, and then I found out they weren't even Iranians. Yeah. They were people who have decided to take up the cause of the Islamic Republic because now, for some, I guess, leftist type, that's like the cause of freedom or something because they're fighting against Israel, which to me is just so absurd. And by the way, there is an element of that. I'm rambling, but there is an element. I've seen a couple of people point this out of frustration that some of the people, the groups out there who are now defending the Islamic or Iran on the basis of humanitarian concerns that Israel is bombing or something like that.
It's not actually because.
Well, forget that. Where were those people when we were talking about the humanitarian concerns during the uprising, during women, life, freedom? I didn't see them on the marches, right? Yeah. Now all of a sudden you care about Iranians. And so clearly you're bringing in an agenda, you know. So this stuff is confusing it all a lot, right? And somewhere in the middle there's kind of Iranians going, well, we got a lot to say about this. Anahita.
You know, I just want to say this. When the people are in danger, it doesn't matter what I believe. Only thing that it's important right now, I think, the feeling that the people are having in Iran and what they deal with right now, and also me, I don't have any expectation from them to do something. Just be safe. I don't know how. If they can find somewhere to go, just go. If not, as much as you can, just, I don't know, just be safe. So it doesn't matter what I'm thinking right now, what I believe. So
if somebody says this is an opportunity, people should get into the streets, what do you say?
And this situation, honestly, I cannot say to the people, go to the street. I'm not there. Who I am.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think of that? Yeah.
It's really hard for me sitting in Toronto, having 20 years since I was last in Iran or anything like that, to say I expect them to do something like that. Mm-hmm. But I'm also cognizant of the fact that this will have been for nothing yet again if it doesn't come to some sort of result. Because, you know, I've been thinking about it a lot, and the worst thing that I think could happen is for the Islamic Republic to feel like they won, to feel like, you know, the greatest powers of the world.
Is that possible at this point?
I don't know, but I think, you know, for them to even think about the fact that the biggest or greatest powers of the world attack them, and yet they came out the other side of it, the only people who will suffer will be the Iranian people at the hands of the Islamic Republic yet again. And so, you know, of course not. I won't sit here and say, you know, please get out on the streets and put your life on the line and that sort of thing. But at the same time, I feel like, you know, we've always said we don't want foreign powers to save us. But I also can't say that there isn't a foreign power that is trying to remove one of the obstacles to get to the point that we all want, which is for the Islamic Republic not to be in power. And so if that is actually happening, if it's at the point where they are in fact somehow, in some way, in the most minimalistic of ways, removing part of that barrier or assisting in removing part of that barrier, then the rest of it has to be at the hands of the Iranian people, whether inside or outside Iran.
It's such a drag that we're not allowed nuance. How dare we have nuance?
Yes.
But because I really, you know, I have a family member who says, I don't fucking want to hear about the regime, this or that right now. I'm worried about my mom and dad. You know, that's like, and how do you say, well, no, this could be tactically, you know, it's not. So I'm sympathetic. I get it. And I feel, but on the other hand, exactly what you just said, what we spend, you know, it's been whatever, 50 years, it was saying, talking every single day about the implications of this regime. And no, do I want America to do this for us or something like that? Of course not. But if the Iranian people choose this moment to rise up and seize this opportunity, then
I think if they think that this is the moment that they need to do something, they will. The people knows when they can do that. Not us, at least.
Let's get to our guests. Thank you, guys. This will be
you.
an ongoing conversation. Always happy to have a couple of the OGs of the Roqe team here.
Good to be back at the Roqe round table.
Thanks, Pegah. Thanks, Anahita.
Thank you.
Okay. This is Roqe, episode 377, the Israel-Iran War, Voices of Iranians. And let's go to our first remote guest for this episode, Dr. Kayvan Mirhadi, one of our favorites, known as Dr. K. He is an Iranian, Canadian, American doctor and a social media star. He's the chief of internal medicine at Clifton Springs Hospital in New York. And right now, Dr. K joins us from New York. Hello, sir.
Hi, Jian. How are you?
Thanks so much. I know how busy your schedule is, and both at the hospital and in dealing with all the questions that are coming at you online. So thank you for making the time for this.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You're always such an important and unique voice for us because you're really at the epicenter of so much and so many people interacting with you from inside Iran. So let me just ask you first about yourself and how are you How have you been processing the last week or so?
It's hard, you know, a lot of sleepless nights. Me and mainly most of the Iranians out there were checking the news minute by minute. Things are changing. It's very hard to see what's going on.
Mixed feelings?
It's just I don't know how to feel, you know. I don't know how to feel. I'm just kind of um robot mode. I just want to see how I can help, how I can be there for my Iranian people and just keep up with the news and see what's next. It's just I'm not one to think, you know, 24 hours or a week at a time. Obviously, all of us are thinking what's going to come out of this, but we're just hoping that people are safe and something positive comes out of it.
You've been really active online, as you were during COVID, as you were during the Mahsa Amini, the uprising after the killing of Mahsa Amini, and trying to help people inside Iran. I'm curious about, do you get a higher volume of people reaching out to you at this time, or is it you that feels like you have to be more active?
No, it's actually a lot. I think it's way more than Masa Amini time. It's because the whole country's going through this and people outside Iran. So it's like there's no way I can keep up with all the messages, but I try my best.
And how would you characterize the messages you're getting?
It's mainly fear. A lot of people are going through um, mental stress, and there's things about there's at first I thought how can I help these individuals because I'm not there, but then there's medical questions pouring in because people are not able to get access to doctors or go to a hospital. So it's in a sense I'm managing a lot of their like medical issues remotely. um, but a lot of it has to do with acute medical problems that are happening because of the bombing. It's causing a lot of debris, and people are having respiratory issues, especially people with predisposing conditions like asthma, COPD. They're messaging me like, I can't breathe. What can I do? And a lot of them are like in the spot questions. I can imagine this person in their building in Tehran not being able to breathe, and they can't open the window because they're telling them, don't. You know, you don't know what kind of chemicals are in there or if there's radioactive material. So people are scared. So they're just waiting for my response. It's a lot on me.
Yeah,
So,
that's a
but
lot of
what can I do?
responsibility. You have to be immediately reactive if somebody's in a building.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I can't read all the messages. It's one of me. I know there's other healthcare workers helping out. I share their posts and stories and I say, okay, these are the doctors and nurses and health professionals that are willing to help you. But this page is like, since COVID has been, um, I guess, trusted by the Iranian community. So a lot of them might just come here and send a message and wait for me to respond. But yeah, there's questions like I can't breathe. My child is screaming. Well, how can I calm them down? The loud noise, the bomb just happened next door to us, and I can't hear anything. What can I do? Is things like that. Yeah.
Anahita was just talking in the studio here about her parents and her dad being in not in the best physical health, and that creates an issue when people are being told to evacuate Iran. Some people can't just pick up and leave. Have you been facing that?
Yeah, there's people that are getting dialysis 3 times a week. They're like, where am I gonna go? If I don't get dialyzed this week, I'm gonna die. Like I can't just leave. There's people that have dementia, they're on wheelchair. There are people taking care of their loved ones that are bedbound. They're paralyzed. Like you can't just lift these people up. Even in a hospital setting with everything that we have going on, it's hard to move some of these patients. To tell them, okay, you need to leave the city and you got hours, it's just impossibility.
One thing that I was hearing a couple of days ago was about how, I mean, we see in Israel, for example, they are always on alert for potential attacks, I guess, or bombs or something like that. So they have this system of bunkers and safe spaces and all of that. And that's not something that the regime in Iran has spent a lot of time and resources on creating. So there isn't natural places where all Iranians can go to be safe. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, they're just in their houses. There's nowhere to go. I mean, I was reading they opened the metro stations as a refuge where they can go, but I also read that there's no bathroom, there's no supplies, like anything for safety there. Um, but yeah, they're essentially just sitting in their room hoping not to get hit. That's how bad it is. Or if they could have just left the city, they left, but a lot of people are still there.
When people talk to you about their these medical issues or asking you questions or advice, are they also telling you how they're feeling in terms of what's happening? Do you have any prevailing sense of how people are reacting to, because we hear a lot of different things, we hear people are angry and furious and becoming warming up to the regime because of this is happening, and we're also hearing the opposite, which is people are actually cautiously optimistic because heads of the IRGC are being killed. Do people share that kind of information with you?
Yeah, and there's a whole variety of emotions that and thought processes people have. Most of them are scared and they don't want to be in this situation. It's at least from the majority of the people I talk to in Iran. Rarely somebody, I'll read a message that like, go ahead, get rid of these people because we want freedom. But most people are so scared for their lives that essentially there's a lot of messages about why are they doing this? Why are we stuck in the middle of this fight? We don't even want these facilities. I don't know why, this is even going on while we're here with our children. Um, and it's hard, I try to stay out of that, and I'm just kind of focusing medical issues right now, just because, you know, you can talk to three of your friends and each of them have their own opinion. It's just so crazy right now.
The priority would be the people inside Iran, our family, our friends, our people who are being directly affected by, literally by bombs dropping, etc. But there is a global Iranian community too that is affected by this. All of us. Do you hear from people outside of Iran too, in terms of the trauma? Again, team members of ours saying they've experienced panic attacks. They're so freaked out, and one of us was just saying that sometimes it's almost worse to not be in the hospital seeing what's happening when you don't know exactly all the information. You're just sitting, letting your mind go to really, really dire places.
Yeah, it's a lot of unknown, and I think a lot of them um, are thinking some horrible event is going to happen. Just if you follow the news, post on the internet, you keep thinking, what if this turns into something way bigger and a lot more lives will be lost? I tell these people, none of this is in our hands. Like there's not much, as opposed to advocating for our loved ones and trying to help in any way, there's not much we can do right now. So just focus on things you could do. For me, it's come to work when I have time, answer questions. For other people, it might be something like share a post that you like on Instagram and try to advocate for people in Iran, or go stand in front of a building and protest, or do whatever you can. But I just feel like these thought processes that come to our heads and keeps us up at night is there's not much going to change. It's just people are thinking all sort of different things, but I would say just focus on what's in front of you, what you can do in the next hour, in the next day.
You're a pretty even keel guy, but where are you at emotionally? Are you feeling a sense of dread or a sense of hope, or where are you on that big spectrum of feelings?
I think changes every minute. Like in the morning, I might read something that's very optimistic, and then in the evening, it's more dire. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never went through this. When I was a child and there was the Iran-Iraq war, I can't remember much of it. I just remember the fear and hiding in the stairways, and they say, okay, you have to go there until we tell you. And I feel like there was more directions back then, even though there was no Instagram or texting system and those things. I feel like people were more unified. They knew what to do. Now it's just so much confusion. Like I just get messages about, oh, I just saw a mushroom cloud from a bombing outside my building. Should I take my potassium iodide tablets? I'm like, these are not things I can help you with. I don't know where it was hit, what kind of radiation or
I was going to say,
facility.
what is the answer to that? But
Yeah, like there's a lot of these, like I either say I don't have enough information, I'm sorry, like you have to and it's hard to say like listen to the authorities because there's nothing coming out from the authorities. There's no authority right now. Like who's saying what to do to people in terms of medical and health, and so it's tough. And I just try to tell them like, stay away from misinformation. There's obviously agencies that are overseeing this to the best of their ability. They're not, I don't know how much of them are in the country. Most of them are from the outside, and just um, making some educated guesses about, okay, this facility that was hit is not the type of radiation we're worried about. The alpha particles are within the facility, so we don't need to tell people to freak out. But I always tell them like, be high alert. If you see a mushroom cloud in front of your house, it doesn't necessarily mean that was an atomic bomb or it was an atomic, like a facility that was enriching uranium. It could just be a huge explosion, but keep your doors closed. Don't try to stay away from, like use bottled water, try to eat from like contained meals, things like that. So you're minimizing those risks. But again, like it's just coming from somewhere that I don't have enough information to give. Like I remember COVID, it was so different because there was like publications coming out and the whole world's going through this, and you have this information in front of you. I could help them so much easier than now. Um, but I try, it's simple things like, oh, I have a headache. What can I take? I can tell them those things. So
it's amazing that you're hearing from as many people as you are, because I mean, in fact, we had a couple of people booked that we're inside Iran that we wanted to speak to, but it's just been impossible to get in touch with them. I know all of us have had trouble getting in touch with family members or friends there as well. And now we hear today that the regime has said that actually they've cut internet altogether. I mean, they're saying, for safety reasons for the war or whatever. But so how do you imagine people are able to get in touch with you?
I think in the last hour or two, the number of messages have declined significantly, especially today with the word that they cut the internet. And yesterday, I think they tried for an hour and it did drop. But otherwise, a lot of people are sheltering in their house and they're on their phones. And, with the number of followings that I have, a lot of them are scared and they have questions like what to do. So they send it to me. But there's tons. It's way more than, I would say it's equivalent to COVID time when there was like this whole, worldwide fear.
It's funny. It's funny because now that I think about it, I mean, as big as the demonstrations and the protest movement and after the killing of Massa and the women life freedom, as big as that was, it wasn't something that affected necessarily everyone in the country. It was kind of you can opt in or out, whereas this is 90 million people are directly involved in this. There's no way out of it. Like I guess COVID, it's a pretty universal thing for Iranians right now, huh?
Yeah, but I have like maybe 10% of the information I had at hand during COVID time. Like COVID, you were getting a lot of the information I had was from publications and CDC and US scientists and TV, and this is so contained now. Like the internet is cut out, so you're really getting no information. So if somebody sends a message and it's in and out, so the messages are still coming in about some specific thing, I don't even know the event that happened because a lot of the news agencies are probably not even on board with what's going on. So it's a very scary situation.
Kayvan, it's always somehow reassuring to know that you're there and to talk to you. I thank you for coming on. Don't be surprised if we keep calling on you to give us updates on what you're learning and what you're doing. Thanks again for this, brother.
For sure, anytime. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is Roqe, episode 377, The Israel-Iran War, Voices of Iranians. My next guest is another one of our favorites. He's an Iranian-Canadian police officer. Kowsar joined the police force 29 years ago to help people, especially co-risk youth in the community. He has also become a prolific online influencer whose words often resonate with a large Iranian audience around the world. Right now, Kayvan Mirhadi joins me from Vancouver. Hello, sir.
Hi, Jian. It's good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Nice to have you back on the show. It's, of course, a very strange time for all of us in the global Iranian community, let alone, of course, our family and friends and acquaintances inside Iran. Tell me, first of all, the question I've been asking everybody. I mean, how are you? How have you been processing the last week or so?
These are very difficult times, especially for people that are outside the country. So that sense of hopeless, not hopeless, but helplessness is what's, I think, weighing really heavily on the minds of most people that are not inside Iran. We all have families, we all have relatives, we all worry for their safety. And interesting enough is that this is something that I think it was expected to happen at some point, and now that it has happened, it's taken everybody by shock. And I think there is just me, like everybody else, experiencing the same thing. It's confusion and despair and the helplessness feeling of we can't do anything, we can't control anything, and we just have to sit and watch and see what happens to our people in Iran. But I think most one of the things that we have to focus on here, especially outside Iran, is to be there for each other. I think this is really one of the most important duties that we have is to each other here to support each other and just be there for each other.
Well, first of all, the first thing you said is something that Anahita brought up as well earlier in the show, which is the sense of helplessness and even guilt that Iranians can feel in the diaspora of what can we do, how can we help, all of that. And I was saying it's akin to a certain extent when you said it's almost more difficult. It sounds like we're self-victimizing in the diaspora, which of course isn't the case. But it's almost like my analogy is when somebody that you love, family member, something is in the hospital or something's happened, and you're so filled with fear and angst and frustration and anger and all that until you actually get to see them. And even if it's a bad diagnosis, it feels better to just be there at the hospital bed. And the fact that we can't do that and that we're just sitting afar is part of the frustration.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good analogy. It's basically like we are so the distance is, I think, it's a whole different emotional processing that's for people that live outside Iran than people that are in the midst of everything that's happening. I would say that it's I don't know if it's more difficult, but it's very confusing, and I think everybody feels differently in times of difficulty like this. Everyone there's no one common way that people feel about things, and I think that is what we're seeing here is a lot of people are confused. They don't know how to feel, they don't know how to think, they don't know what to think and what to do. So that is, I think, one of the things that is we all have in common is that confusion, the sense of confusion, of course, among everything else, all the other emotions that come and go. But I think the real processing is going to begin afterwards. I mean, right now we're still in the shock of what's going on, and the real processing, the real work, recovery will come after everything is done. That's when it's going to hit a lot of people, I believe.
I know you're usually regularly in touch with people inside Iran, or you hear from people inside Iran. What has most impressed you, or what has most been impressed upon you by what you've been hearing from people inside Iran?
You know what? Iranian people are so resilient. And I have been in contact with quite a few people in Iran. And yes, there is the fear, there's anxiety, there is all these emotions going on, but they are going about, and they are very, they're strong. they're strong, and they are confused as well, because obviously this is happening to their homeland, and but at the same time, it's also happening to the mortal enemy of Iran, the government of Iran. So, but people are hopeful. What I get, the sense of hope, is what I get from people that I
Really?
talk to.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, they are very hopeful. There's a lot of people that I'm not saying they see that this may be the turning point that they've been waiting for, to just rid the country and the world of this government, this tyrannical
And you would say that
dictator.
that's a prevailing sentiment. Like you hear that more than you hear fear or fuck Israel or that type of thing.
You know what? I haven't heard anything like that about anything negative about Israel. I mean, I don't think that anybody wants their country to be attacked, but I think the focus is on the people, at least the people that I've spoken with. They're focusing on okay, we know there's a price to pay, and we know we're paying the price. We're just hopeful that at the end of this, with all the destruction, all the innocent lives lost, at least we can look forward to a free Iran, free of this government. So that's the sense that I'm getting from majority of people that I talk to, that are currently in Iran.
What about in Vancouver, in the Iranian community there? What kinds of conversations have you been having there?
It's a different type of emotions here. I have spoken with fathers that they have their kids and family in Iran, and there was this one person that I was talking to, and he was slurring his speech. He couldn't finish a sentence. He was crying, and he was worried about his children, and and he felt really alone, because he's here, he's trying to make a better life for his family that are back in Iran, and the anguish that I felt when I spoke with him, it was just heartbreaking.
Kamir, I hate to always typecast you as the police officer, so I have to ask you about military and police officers, et cetera. But I wonder if you have any insight. I mean, part of what they always say is if things are going to turn, the security, the military, the police forces in Iran would have to essentially defect away from the current regime and or lay down their arms, so to speak, and join the people, or some type of opposition. Do you have any thoughts or insight into that?
Well, what's happening to the people of Iran, what's been happening to the people of Iran for decades now, has been happening happening to the police, to the security forces in Iran, to the public safety figures in Iran as well, and they have the same grievances. And I believe that for this to lead to a government change in Iran, they have to take an active role of defiant and take side with the people. I think that's the only way that this would happen, once there's the people rise up, and I think that's what needs to happen for that change to happen, and for this to succeed. They need to be with the people. They need to side with the people, and that itself is not just not that's just physically being with people, but that's it's the emotional support that people will feel, that will empower people. I think once the military is with them, once the police is with them, that itself will boost the morale of the crowd, of the people, and I think will push them towards that desired outcome, which is the change of government in Iran.
Do you still have family in Iran?
I do. many people. I have aunts, uncles.
Where
I have
where are
lots
they?
of family.
Where are they?
In Tehran
And
and in Shomal. It's the northern Iran and the Gilan province.
have you been able to speak to them?
You know what? It's very difficult. I used to be able to FaceTime them, but it's been very, very difficult to try to get a hold of them. And it's been very spotty with the internet that it's been restricted or almost disconnected. It's hard to make that those contacts and to connect with people. And
Do you
I've
know
been
if they
having
were?
the
Do you
same
know if
problem.
do you know if they were able to leave Tehran?
Yes. I know that some of them were able to leave and they went to family in Shomal, and but I still have people that are in Tehran and they are refusing to leave, and I totally understand.
What do they say when they say they're refusing to leave?
They say, "Where are we going to go? There's no place to go. This is home. We're going to stay, and we're just going to stay. This has been our house for how many years?" But it's a sense of I think the sense of defiant is a way that they're expressing. I think they're taking some control over the situation. It's helping them process and give them that sense of, yeah, we have some control over the situation. So I think in that sense, I totally understand, and I don't. This is not the time to judge anybody. I mean, I don't know what I would have done in there if I was in that situation. But people react differently, and I think it's all very natural.
A final question to you. I mean, if there's that spectrum between the dread and anger and even support for the regime at this point against that's fighting a war or something like that, versus hope that this could mean the change that many of us have wanted, including presumably a mass majority of Iranians inside Iran for many years. Where do you find yourself right now in that spectrum?
That's a really good question. But it's a very difficult question to answer. That confusion I was talking about, it's that confusion. It's like being a hostage in a situation, and you have on one side your hostage takers, this group that you want to free yourself from, and then there's another group that is the enemy of that group, and you are caught in crossfire. And it's very difficult to really pinpoint how I feel. I just want to feel. I don't. You know what I want to feel is that right now the most important responsibility that we have is to be the voice of people in Iran, yes, and look after each other here. I think that's should be the focus. That is my focus, and that's all my efforts are going to be towards that. And
what very briefly, what do you mean by look after each other here?
Be there for each other. Be there for each other, which means that
emotionally, you mean?
Sorry,
emotionally, you mean?
You know what? It's like when people are going through trauma, a common trauma. I think the best way to process it is to be together, to connect with each other. Now, I'm just saying there are a lot of people that have family outside, or they're here with their families. There are a lot of people that are just by themselves, and let's not forget those people. Connect them, talk to them, just make them feel that you hear them and you see them. And that's really important. Yes, that's the emotional support that they need. And that's what we need to do. Get together, just meet with people, just call them message them. That's it. That's all.
Just-
Do everything we can just to be there with for each other, and know that nobody's alone.
I 1,000% agree with that. That's so beautifully said. I lied. Actually, I do have one more final question for you. It's just a little one, but as a police officer, you probably are in situations sometimes where there's a protest, there's some sort of demonstration, and you have to protect the protesters to a certain extent, right, against other people, or somehow be in the middle. What happens if you find yourself in front of a bunch of protesters who are carrying Islamic Republic flags and actually demonstrating in favor of the regime in Iran?
I have been. I have worked protests in Vancouver for the many different type of protests. And as a police officer, the most important thing as a police officer, when I'm at work, when I am in work mode, and I have a responsibility to the community, and that is that to be impartial. And the most important, I think, one of the most important qualities of a police officer is to be able to do their perform their duties and control their biases. That's one of the most important qualities of a police officer. So I have been in that situation, and I can tell you that it wasn't difficult for me to know my responsibility, my duty, and to be understanding of the situation and what job that I have to do, and do it without prejudice, without bias, and impartial.
Cam, it's always good to see you. I thank you for making the time today, man.
Of course, not a problem. Thank you very much for doing this. I think it's fantastic to hear the voices of people here. I think that helps. And thank you again for your great program.
Appreciate you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
This is Roqe, episode 377, the Israel-Iran War, Voices of Iranians. Let's go to Washington, D.C. And a voice we've had on this program many times, Nik Kowsar, is a distinguished Iranian-Canadian cartoonist, journalist, and blogger. Nik is known by many Iranians for his regular presence on BBC Persian, on Iran International, Radio Farda. He also runs a website called abanganiran.org, which covers Iran's water crisis. Right now, Nik Kowsar joins me from Washington, D.C. Hello, sir.
Hi, Jian. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm experiencing a lot of different feelings and emotions as we've been talking about throughout this show with our various friends and guests. It occurs to me that you've been on this program a few times, and I can say this now that we've been doing this for a few years. You've been on in so many different iterations of what's been happening in your life, in my life, in the global Iranian community and inside Iran, from exploring your own career and your tumultuous relationship with this regime in Iran, to the Mahsa Amini period after the killing of Mahsa and the Women Life Freedom movement and protests, and you were right there in amongst that, to the water crisis, to this situation now. So first off, how are you processing what you've seen and heard over the last week?
Before I get to the processing part, I've had different mustaches on your show, so that's something. And
Also
I've
true.
beard as well, and different weights. So that's also another thing to add.
Thank you for
But
injecting some humor. Yes.
thank you. But look, I don't have mixed feelings. I have messed feelings. And everything is nasty around Mesopotamia. It's always a mess. But what I want to say is since Friday, I've had weird feelings. First, when I heard that Israel had shot some bad people, bad elements of the IRGC. Honestly, I'm not usually happy when somebody is killed. But at that moment, I was cheered up. So what I was feeling that innocent people are also being murdered because of all the bombings, all the attacks. And then Iran started attacking Israel. I don't want to say Iran, the Islamic Republic started sending rockets, different rockets to Israel. But I heard that they're sending their older generation rockets so Israel would not have enough of those anti-rocket, anti-missile uh, stuff they have on in their Iron Dome, and then they will start sending their Fatah 2 and other, I don't know, can I say supersonic, hypersonic rockets. So things are getting really ugly. I have friends in Tehran, I have friends in Tel Aviv, and two cities that can be actually, I don't know, sisters,
Mm.
brothers, relatives, and because you have more than 100,000 Iranian Israelis in Holon, that's part of the Tel Aviv bigger city, it's hard to say what happens next. They're all human beings. They have their own histories, and a new history is being written, I guess because somebody wants to cling longer to power in Jerusalem, and there's a crazy, nasty leader in Tehran called Ayatollah Khamenei. Of course, I don't know if he's still in Tehran, but whatever it is, I have messed feelings right now instead of mixed feelings.
I,
And I'm really worried for so many people, for so many areas, for the trees and the inhabitants of Tehran
yeah,
and other parts of the country.
yeah. That's I mean, you do have a way. This is part of your thing. You can coin terms and articulate things in such a profound way. I really actually like messed feelings, because it feels messy in our minds right now. I've been trying to work out exactly what I want to say, and what I ended up saying on a post a couple of days ago was. I don't know entirely what to say, and we don't always have to post. We don't always have to, this notion that everyone has to blog their way through this and tell us exactly what you're feeling. It's and have a take on it, when it's really, really hard to have a black and white take on this because there is so much give and take, and there's so much messiness around it. Correct?
Yeah, the problem is I'm somehow an animal of messing up with words. So we have false messiahs in this situation. We have messed up people, politicians who want to take advantage of this situation to gain momentum for their bank accounts. We have people who are just trying to convince Israel and the Israeli politicians to uh, take different parts of Iran and make it a separate, actually separate parts of Iran. If you just saw Jerusalem Post this morning, I saw it and I read part of it, and it made me feel really bad because there are some people who want to turn Iran into different nations.
Mm.
And the beauty of Iran would be all the colorful people from different backgrounds, the Kurds, the Lurs, Khorasanis, the Arabs, Sistanis, Baluchistanis, people from all parts of Iran together make a beautiful nation. And they want to create separation. And this bothers me. This bothers me a lot. And I'm not one who wants to enforce an artificial unity, but I believe the unity that we've had all these years with all different kings, leaders, you name it, has left us what we have from the old Persia or Pars to what we have right now as Iran. I'm sad that it has been under the ruling of the Ayatollahs all these years, but the fact is we still have Iran as is. But if people want to separate parts of Iran for the interests of other countries, it's not that nice, and I don't feel that good.
Do you? I mean, we talk about the messy feelings, and depending on who you talk to, as you know, and where they may be on the ideological spectrum or who they may support or not support, you'll hear profoundly different things about what the people inside Iran are feeling. What are you? I know what my cousins are saying. I know what people I know in Iran are saying. What do you? What are you hearing from? You said you have friends in Tehran and friends in Tel Aviv. Is there a prevailing sentiment amongst them, or is there a mixture of feelings amongst them as well?
Different feelings, actually. I have people in Tel Aviv towards the left of the political spectrum who hate Netanyahu. I have ones who support Netanyahu. I have people inside Iran that are anxious and want to see the Ayatollah gone. But then when their glasses shatter after an explosion, they say, "Oh, we don't want this war anymore." So it seems that until the moment that you felt the horror of war, you want it, but then you sense something different. Look, I lived in Tehran most of my life, but part of my life was in Shiraz, and my parents lived in Shiraz. So when I went back to Shiraz in 1988 for the Nowruz vacation, Iraqis attacked a hospital, shot a hospital that was about 70 yards from our place. And I think 70 or 80 people were killed. The old name was Morsaleen Hospital, then changed to Moslemin. Whatever it was, 80 innocent people were killed. And then when we weren't home, we were lucky. And then when we got back home around midnight, after they let us enter the area, we were faced with tens of dead cats, birds, anything, you name it. And I hadn't ever thought about the lives of those innocent beings. Cats, dogs,
Yeah.
birds, mice. Why were they supposed to tolerate the effects of war? That was the thing that passed through my mind. And I remember during the war, the 8 years, whenever a MiG-21, a MiG-23, a MiG-25 passed over parts of Shiraz or a Mirage F1, we were anxious, but we knew something wrong will happen in the next few minutes or next few seconds after seeing and locating that plane, that fighter. Or when an F-14 was going to head, a Tomcat was going to head from Shiraz to the border, we were happy that they're going to shoot dozens of Iraqi fighters with their Phoenix air-to-air missiles. But oh, the Iraqi pilot also had a family. We didn't think about that at that moment, but later we thought about it. So there's a lot of horror when we talk about war. But the fact is, to leaders, people are just numbers. That's very painful.
If there's a spectrum right now of opinion amongst Iranians, from on the one side, this is a disaster, this is apocalyptic, this can only lead to more misery, and we need a ceasefire. And frankly, even we would take this regime the way it is right now, rather than more bombing in Tehran. To on the other side, Afghanistan. This is over. This is almost over. The regime is about to leave, and despite some horrific little bumps along the way here, this is the promised land we've been looking for. If that's the extremes of the spectrum, where would you say you are right now?
First of all, it's hard to say where I am at this moment because what I know and what I want is a sustainable, united Iran that's safe for future generations. War will never bring safety. If the war in Iraq brought safety for the people and brought democracy for the people, thank you very much. Let's have it. It didn't. If the war in Afghanistan changed the whole nation and turned it into a democratic being, let's welcome it. Did it? It didn't. The fact is, I'm feeling that we have new Chalabis. You remember Chalabi in 2003, he was encouraging the US to attack Iran, and he wanted to take advantage. He wanted to be uh, on the throne in Iraq. It didn't happen. We're facing different Chalabis right now, Chalabi 2.0, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it. We're facing different people who want to take advantage of this war and take as much as they could. I know that some people from different camps have contacted the White House, have contacted Jerusalem, and want to show some allegiance to whatever plan that Netanyahu has and say that, oh, we're the ones that can rule the country. People may be hopeful that these individuals could bring stability. I hope they succeed, but I don't think so. That's the big problem. The other thing is that talking to people, my classmates, my friends who still have access to internet, because many are disconnected right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. We've been
The
trying. I
ones that
mean,
I
we've been trying to get in touch with people in Iran. It's very, very hard to have them on the program. Just strictly from technologically, it's almost impossible at this point. But go ahead. Yes.
It is. So some are hopeful that, they will impose a new leader. That means Israel and the US will impose a new leader. And because the US is a democracy, then whatever they impose is democratic. So that's the meaning, that's how they interpret democracy. I call it democracy, not democracy. The other thing is some people are saying, oh, if they want to create separate parts, separate states out of our country and for their own interests and for their own national security, we don't want it. We want a united Iran. We also have this. So there's a matter of national pride as well among so many people that I'm talking to. And I remember the 1980s when MEK was fighting the Islamic Republic until the point they joined Saddam, many understood their fight. But when they started collaborating with Saddam Hussein, they became enemy number two for many people. Still, I know there are many people in Canada, in the US, that think that, oh, MEK is the alternative. No, very few people in Iran support MEK.
Do you?
Something
Sorry. Do you worry at all that for the first time? I mean, it felt like, at least for a brief moment, 2 or 3 years ago, that the entire world was starting to understand what we're dealing with in terms of the regime in Iran and its the murderous nature, etc. And what Iranians know instinctively around the world over the last 46, 47 years. But do you worry that because of what's transpired, they're certainly on the ideological left, with Israel attacking Iran, in the view of some, that is a reason to support the Islamic Republic. We're now seeing demonstrations, pro-Palestinian demonstrations that are carrying the Islamic Republic flag and saying, basically defend the regime. Is that something that you've seen, and what do you make of that?
Yesterday afternoon in Washington, there was a meeting at a bookstore that was organized by the people who are known as the Iran lobby. But outside of that bookstore restaurant, there was also a protest of anti-regime and anti-execution activists who were questioning the deeds of the people inside the bookstore. And the big question is, are you guys who are against war and want peace also against dictatorship, also against the abuse of the regime against activists and its political opponents? So there was a silence among those who were entering that bookstore slash restaurant. And so we had people on both sides. So it's not something that you could say it's not a monolith. You see different sides to it.
I'm not even
And
talking about the Iranian community. I'm talking about, activists around the world who
oh,
suddenly see the Islamic Republic as the beacon of freedom and hope because they're going up against Israel.
I know it's absurd, and unfortunately, it's true because let's say many of them have been funded indirectly by the regime. I believe so, because last year in, let's say, was it in Columbia University or other universities, other campuses, there were people supporting Hamas as a terrorist organization. And I saw a few of the messages passing, uh, being shared among young leftist students. And it was the Islamic Republic's rhetoric. And you could see that there is some influence. And the Islamic Republic has been financing different groups in the US, in Europe for years. And unfortunately, I should say, during the Obama years, his administration was somehow silent to it. Sons, daughters of former ministers, officials came to the US and now are US citizens, and they have the means to actually uh, launder lots of money. There are lots of them in Canada.
Yeah.
That's that's worrying for
Yeah.
many of us. And unfortunately, our good friends in the Canadian Parliament, in the Canadian government, have more important things to do.
A final question for you, Nick. Not necessarily an easy one. I'm assuming you saw Ali Khamenei's talk today, his speech.
In the bunker, possibly.
What do you? Yeah, it was actually Roham from our team was mentioning that the audio and video was so poor. He clearly doesn't have his usual coterie around him to make that look better or sound better. What do you most hope will happen over the next few days?
Depends. It depends. It's I like what Kayvan Mirhadi always says. We have to look at things through a game theory lens. We have different players. We have different options, variables, and under different variables, we can have different outcomes. So uh, it depends. If it lasts longer than a week, if it lasts longer than a month, things may change. The other thing is that if some people are excited and, oh, this is the best opportunity to have a king or a president king in Iran after this, and Israel will impose something for us on our behalf through the monarchist Game of Thrones. I'm not saying monarchist, monarchy, what Biden used to say. So if we have a monarch up there, great. He can do a lot for us, but they don't know that the guy doesn't have even a single plan on natural resources that I'm so concerned about. So I can't support anything like that. But there are people who think that the guy has a plan. And also on the other side, there are
The,
different
the
groups that
question
say,
was,
"Oh, we have."
what do you hope will happen in the next few days?
I hope that people come together and instead of course, I'm not there. Ethically, I'm not supposed to say this. I wish people stood up to the regime that we wouldn't get to this point.
Mm.
I wish it didn't happen. And, you know, a big percentage of people living in Iran have been born after 1979.
Hmm.
So the regime somehow knows how to play its own game and knows if Hannah Arendt were alive, she would have written a new uh, book about the absurdity of so many things we have in our communities. Uh, the thing I really want is people to be happy, but also to stand up for their children. Because if they don't stand up for their children and for the rights of their children, we will have no water, no future, and millions of people will have to leave Iran, not in 10 years, but in even shorter than that. So I'm really worried. If this could have been a good opportunity and brilliant minds had helped Mr. Netanyahu to find a better strategy, that would have been another story. But his strategy is, I think, just based on a reaction to what the Knesset was going to do to him.
Okay.
And some people are happy that they can take advantage of it. And that's bothering me. And I can tell you, a group of us are working together right now, politicians, activists, analysts, to get a plan. But the outcome will be published, of course, a very vague outcome, not uh, an, a bit by bit, but a vague white paper will possibly be published in the very near future.
A plan for
Let's
what?
hope it'll be good enough.
A plan around resources?
What can be done and how can we help the people in Iran?
Okay. Nik, it's always I always appreciate having you on. Thank you for this, sir.
Thank you, and God bless.
Take care. Big thank you to all the guests who joined us today. Dr. K, Kamiar, Nik, and of course Pegah and Anahita. We are going to probably make this into something we're doing regularly. We, of course, don't know where things are going with the situation in Iran. But if the conflict continues, as we suspect it will, we'll continue doing this and doing our best to bring voices of Iranians from around the world, including inside Iran, which was our intention today. And as I think I said in a couple of the moments there, it was just impossible to the people we had lined up. We could not get through to, especially with the internet being cut off today. So we'll look forward to trying to make that work somehow in the coming days. This is full time for Roqe for today. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together regularly. That will be Sabi Roham, Super Parisa, Tina, the photo and video queen, and the very talented Anahita. Special thanks to Charming Kimia, the CK, Smart Pegah, Methodical Kaveh, and thanks to the TRK, the Rising Keon, for your help. Thank you to all of you out there for supporting us and sharing our content. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already on any or all of our platforms. It's at Roqe Media on Telegram or on YouTube or on SoundCloud or on Spotify or on Apple or on CastBox or on Instagram. You can find us on Instagram at Roqe Media, as I say. You can find me on Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi. Take care of yourselves. Be well. Here's praying for you and your families. And as ever, Mizun Bashi.